Did you know that you can die from drinking too much water? And I know what you're gonna say in the comments. Still drink water. You need water. This is not telling you not to drink water. This is just a very interesting phenomenon that theoretically can happen in some very specific circumstances. So this is a phenomenon called acute hypernatremia. So you may have heard, this was in the news a while ago, that I say a while ago, but it was years ago, this lady was in a contest, Hold Your Wee for a Wee, in which she had to drink a bunch of water, and the last one standing won a Wii gaming system. So this lady drank a shit ton of water without going to the bathroom, and then the next day, her mother came and found her dead in her house. And this was caused by acute hyponatremia. And that is a thing that happens when you drink a ridiculous amount of water. Like, again, this will not happen to you unless you drink a, unfathomably large amount of water in a short amount of time without, removing it. And basically the cause of this is due to osmosis. So what happens? Osmosis is the, process of things moving from a high concentration to a low concentration. So in the case of water, which is, the very commonly known one, it moves, again, from high concentration to low concentration, and in the case of your body, that being into or out of cells. So normally and ideally, your body is in what is called an isotonic state, which means while there is movement of water across your cell membranes, it is not significantly changing the size of your cells. So even though water is moving into the cells, it is also moving out of the cells at a rate constant enough that the volume and size of the cells does not change. There are cases that this volume of your cell do change, so in states of dehydration, you are in what is called a hypertonic state, which means the concentration of water outside your cells is lower than the concentration of water in your cells, so the water moves outside your cells in order to try to balance the concentration, and that causes your cells to shrink. There's also the opposite of that, called hypotonic, when the concentration of water outside your cells is much higher than inside your cells, so the water moves in, causing your cells to grow. So that is basically the opposite of dehydration, and that is what we are talking about. That is the cause of hyponatremia. So essentially what happens is that somebody drinks a lot of water in a very short amount of time without urinating at all. So what this does, it gets a lot of water into your system, and that causes the concentration of water to be way higher outside your cells. And due to the laws of osmosis, the water wants to go from a high concentration to a low concentration, therefore it crosses the cell membrane and enters your cells. Now, normally this is not a problem, so if you're drinking a moderate amount of water and urinating regularly. However, in certain very specific cases, that doesn't happen. And when there is a lot of water going into the cells, that causes them to swell and eventually, in serious cases, just burst. So oftentimes it doesn't actually get to the burst stage, mostly because the patients are already dead at that point, if there's no treatment done. So when water gets taken into cells, they swell, and it happens in most of the body cells, so in your kidneys and intestines and all that, but also in your brain. And the brain is where the problem comes from. So in the case of most of your other organisms, so kidneys and intestines and all that, a bit of swelling is not that big of a problem because, most of your body is relatively squishy and can take a bit of expansion. However, your brain is stuck inside your skull, and your skull does not expand. So that is a problem when your brain starts swelling because there's nowhere for it to go. And brain swelling is not a thing that we want. So water enters your body cells. In the case of like kidneys, it's fine because your kidneys can expand because there's space. However, when water enters your brain cells and brain cells start expanding, there is nowhere for them to go. So that often leads to death because brain swelling is very bad. So in the cases of acute hypernatremia, it happens very quickly, like under 24 hours. If you're drinking like that much water, you will, if not left untreated and undiagnosed, it'll be like less than 24 hours. However, if it is properly diagnosed, there are treatments including a high concentration IV bag. So a IV bag, excuse me, with a pretty high concentration of salt injected into the bloodstream in order to bring the water out of the cells and reduce brain swelling. Additionally, if the patient is conscious, then they can be like induced to urinate, which also helps water leave the body. And also if they are unable to, diuretics can also be used in order to again just flush everything out, get it out of there. So if it is properly diagnosed, then usually they will be fine after a bit if it's caught in time. However, this is very common in high-level athletes. Particularly, there has been a lot of cases of American high school football players dying from this. So this is due to the fact that a lot of these symptoms look similar to heat stroke, and so when these like football players are out doing practices and all that, they're drinking a lot of water, like a ridiculous amount. But there's this hormone thing. Basically, when you're doing a lot of exercise, you don't need to pee. So when they're out doing this exercise, they're not urinating, so all the water is being stored in your cells. But when they start to get like dizzy and faint and headache and just feeling bad, people think that it's heat stroke, so they give them more water, which actually causes more of a problem because the sickness is being caused by too much water in your body. And so when you give them more water, do we see the problem here? So just keep in mind, if you are a pretty serious athlete, make sure, I'm not telling you not to drink water, but keep an eye on your symptoms. It may not be heat stroke, and keep something with electrolytes on you, like Gatorade or Powerade, all that, because electrolyte drinks will help deal with this because it helps you keep hydrated without messing with the osmolarity of your cells. So yeah, this is basically just a long-winded way of saying you can die from too much water. Great!